Hi, it's Sally here again. LK150 video series 2 on hems and edgings. Still on lesson 3 for hems. This is video 2 for lesson 3. So in this one we're going to be looking at picot hems. So what is a picot hem? A picot, instead of being a flat edge like these ones, it will have a little pointy edge like this one. And there's usually a couple of ways to knit a picot edging, so I'll show you both of those. And in this video I thought I'd show you the use of the cast on rag. If you haven't seen this in use before, it saves on waste yarn. And in my first series I show you how to make a cast on rag. Quite simple to make. But basically it's a bias strip of knitting that ends up with these big loops along the edge, and this is what you pick up instead of casting on or waste yarn. So you want an odd number of needles in work to do a picot edging, because you're going to be transferring needles to their neighbours. So using a transfer tool, pick up your loops from your cast on rag. I usually pull the needles out to D. And the one thing I should have done but didn't was put my carriage on the left hand side, but that's okay, we can deal with that in a minute. So there's my edge of my cast on rag picked up, and just put weights on it and check all the way across that every needle has got a loop on it. Now the absolute critical thing that you must do with a cast on rag is to knit the separation row with ravel cord, because if you don't, you won't be able to retrieve your cast on rag afterwards. You'll have to cut it off and then you'll have to make another cast on rag. There we go. So now I've just got, again, 21 needles in work here. Again, for practice I would suggest you probably do it with at least 40. I'm just doing this with 21 for speed. Right, so as all my needles are out to D, if I put that rustle lever back to... So the carriage isn't on the rail properly. That's it. If I put that rustle lever back to 1, I can move it across and the knitting will stay put. So I'm now going to use my ravel cord and knit one row, and I'm on my main tension here. So that's one row with ravel cord. Now again I'm going to use this lovely fuchsia pink, and I'm going to knit the inner part one number below main tension, purely because we discovered on the previous hem that gave the best result. It might not with the picot, but we'll try it that way. And then I'm going to knit, reset my row counter to 0 and knit 10 rows. Make sure every stitch has knitted through. there's 10 rows knitted. Now you need to get a transfer tool, and starting with the needle, the second needle from the right, take it off its needle and transfer it onto its neighbour. And again, I pull these out to D. So you are in effect creating a row of eyelet holes. And then put all the empty needles back into work. And I pull them all out to D. Now I'm just going to turn this up to main tension. So don't want the picots to be too loose. So I'm going to try it on main tension and see what it's like. There we go. And now I'm going to knit another 10 rows. I'll move the weights up. You can see how, if I leave that there, you can see how quickly these edges are losing tension by not moving the weights up. This is why you need to move the weights up. So that's my 10 rows done, 21 in total. And now I'm going to get my transfer tool and pick up the loops. Again, start on the second needle in because you've got one stitch less, remember? Oops. And go all the way across. Need to pull this edge down so I can see the loops more clearly. It does pay, if you like using the cast on rag, to knit some in different colours so that you've always got one that's going to be a nice contrast colour to the yarn that you're using. Seems a bit of an odd thing to say, but because they're both a bright colour, actually that easy to see the difference between the orange and the pink. And then we are on the last one. Rehang the weights. Turn your tension up to main tension +1 for the joining row, remember? And knit across. Reset your row counter and knit another row at main tension +1. Then back down to main tension. Right, let's see how this one looks. the ravel cord, and then your cast on rag comes away and you can reuse it another time. And there is your Picot edge. Again, you might want to put a straight edge or something in and pull it down to make sure you're getting the little points in the right place. And again, this is sitting nice and flat as these things go. You can use a Picot hem anywhere you'd use a normal hem, obviously around the bottom of something or a cuff or on a neck as well, you could do it. When I'm using stocking stitch to make neck bands, I usually use the graduated tension method, which means I'll start off at main tension and decrease it by half a number every row or 2 rows, depending on how deep the neckband is, till I get to the turning point, then a loose row for turning, and then increase the tension back up to main tension so that the neckband will sit quite nice and flat. You can do exactly the same again with the Picot. So rather than having it the tighter tension on the inside and the loose tension on the outside, use graduated tension on both sides for a neckband. So that's looking quite good. Now again, you can do a reduced bulk method for making a Picot edging. I personally don't like it very much because I don't think it makes such a nice point, but I will show it to you, as it's again down to you what you want to use. I will use an every other needle cast on. Again, I can use my cast on rag. Put those back in B and just pick up, skip a loop, pick up a loop. I know it looks like you can use every loop on here, but don't skip the loop as you would if you were using it on a needle. I have just found that by skipping the loop, it makes it easier once it knits through. Don't ask me why, I don't know, it just does. Oh, I find it does. You might not find it needful. Let's see. Right, so weights on, and again I'm on the wrong side, so move over, ravel cord, and reset row counter to 0, and again I'm going to go main tension minus 1 whole number and knit 10 rows on alternate needles. Make sure they knit through. And then put alternate needles back into work, Move your weights up and onto main tension, then knit 11 rows. That's effectively your turning row. 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Weights off. And again, as with the reduced bulk one we did on the previous video, you're going to put this onto needle 2. and then needle 4, 6, 8, 10, etc. 12. Claw weights back on, main tension +1, there's your joining row, reset row counter, another row at main tension +1, back to main tension. Now a lot of people might only do one row at main tension +1 when they're doing a join, but I've actually found it helps it to sit flatter if you do 2. A tip that someone gave me, and I apologise, I can't remember who it was. I'm nearly running out of yarn again, never mind. There we go. Now find your rubber cord and pull it out. Remove your cast on rag, save it for later. And here we have Picot edge with the less bulky back. Again, I'm going to just stick my ruler in here and pull it down. Now I personally think these look a bit more loopy and less pointy, but that's my own personal opinion. You can see the difference between the two, I think. These just look like loose stitches when they stick down, and so I don't like that version as much as the standard version where you just transfer on the fold row. But there we go. There are 2 versions of Picot edging. I have had difficulties doing Picot edging on yarns that have no stretch, like cotton. It's the one and only time I actually broke needles on this machine trying to force it to knit across. That's not to say you can't do it on using yarns with little or no stretch, but you might find that there's the row where you've done all the transfers and put the needles back into work. You might have to knit that row across by hand. I think I actually ended up just doing a turned hem on it in the end because I just couldn't get it to, and I was using the full width of the machine because I was knitting a child's cardigan all in one piece, and I just could not get it to knit over. So that's another thing to consider when you're thinking about doing a Picot hem. So if your yarn has no stretch, it might do a piece this wide or this wide okay, but if you're going to then do a piece this wide, it might not. So just bear that in mind. Other than that, I don't think there's anything else I need to say or point out on the subject of Picot edging. Yeah, it provides a prettier edge, slightly less boring than a straight hem, I guess. There we go. The next video will be about various different edges you can use that don't have a hem or a rib. There's quite a few options there, so join me on the next video.